entrepreneur. Do a lot of creating in the entertainment space. So I think that's it.
Okay. We're not gonna bite you. It's all right. We just have one rule here. Just take
Mm.
the little off the producer. Like we don't say that here. Everything we do is major. So you can't graduate if you major in the minors. Azealia.
Well, it is absolutely exciting to be back on the show. I am Adelia Johnson. I am the owner of I Am a Morning Coffee. I am a licensed therapist. I am a social worker. I am an event host, and I'm an author. And I love all things SpeakHer Podcast. I'm a fan. So there's that.
No, when I say if you ever question yourself in life, everybody needs an Adelia. She will hype you up. She's a cheerleader. She's such an encourager. She will gas you till the wheels fall off. And I absolutely appreciate her for that. And even things that she said to me, and I'm like, I don't know. But then now I'm kind of like, you know what? She kind of right. So everyone needs an Adelia. And one of the things I love about that is the fact, one of the things getting into this conversation, first of all, if you have not liked, share, tagged at least 5 people, you need to do that because we're gonna have an amazing conversation tonight. Just the importance of community as a creator. And Jalen, you could probably chime in on this as far as everyone doesn't see it. And when I see it, I mean like the vision.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need people that get it, and not to knock our other friends, but just the way our minds work, sometimes it can be very quirky and just the way we perceive life is a little different. And so just the impact of having other creative minds around you that are willing to kind of jump off that edge with you, because it may be edgy, it may be out of the box, but they can kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see that. So what does that mean for you as far as having a community of creators around you that can kind of be like your sounding board in those spaces of creativity?
I think for me, I've always been very laser focused. So I always if it's for me, it was shown to me. That's the biggest person that I'm most concerned about believing in the vision is because it was shown to me. And so, the outside, that's just, if people do you see it, then that's great. But if not, that's great too. And but having that community is very important. To have people around you who not only just love you, because sometimes people who love you, they don't want to see you hurt, so they want to always tell you the truth. But having people who provoke you to growth, people who push you, people who are willing to correct you, and that saying, iron sharpen iron. You really want to have that. It's very important to have that because sometimes you'll get to a certain place, and the people around you can help you get out of that stagnation that you might be in, or you thinking you good and you comfortable, but they're like, no, keep going. So or slow down. So it's very important, very important.
Adelia?
Again, if you all are wondering what I'm doing, I am sharing on my IG. I don't want y'all to think I wasn't tapped in. I'm tapped in. So you're welcome. So what I will say, just to kind of lean on what Jalen said, is that I think it's really, really important for you to believe in yourself. When I took a break from social media in March, I must admit it was so good. And to be honest, I've struggled with like kind of coming back because I've gotten so much more confident in who God says that I am, and not leaning on like likes and shares and all of that. And what I'm learning, and I know that we've talked about this before, social media has become just really, really, it's a traffic jam right now, in my opinion. And so I think the purity of our creativity can sometimes get lost in that. But I think with with communities like this, I hope I'm answering the question. Am I answering the question? Okay. With communities like this, like you said, and let me be very clear, because I think some people just think I'm like really, really nice, and I am, but I'm not hyping you up if I don't mean it, and I'm not hyping you up if I don't really believe it. So if you out here doing stuff that's raggedy, I'm not extending my support. And so, but I have no problem with helping people, be better. And so I think that's important.
That's good. I think with social media, I've noticed the times where I've scheduled more posts and took times away, my creativity opened up because when you see other things, it can cause comparison. It can have you to question what you're doing. It can actually take from your creativity because you see someone else doing it. So now their influence is imprinting on how God gave it to you versus you creating out of authentic place. You may be pulling from another person online, but actually just taking the time to go, that's not how I saw it initially. And now you're tweaking it because you see their algorithm. And so you may use that as a gauge versus going with the way God gave it to you. And now you're off track, even though the algorithm may say one thing, but it's like, how did God give it to you and design it like that? And I think sometimes that matters. Um, for myself lately, since January to now, there have been ebbs and flows in my creativity. Like coming out of January and February, I was dropping products left and right, the creative flow, and then I want to say March, and then going through April, it kind of dipped, and for some reason, I found myself questioning, like, okay, what am I doing? What's going on? What's happening? And I realized it's because I was spending more time on social media, and sometimes, especially now with things happening in politics and news, it's a lot. Like you said, traffic jams, a lot of distractions. And so today I was thinking I need to go back to scheduling more and I need to kind of pull back a little bit and dig more into creativity because it can be a huge distraction.
Right.
So with that being said, what do you think? And then Jay, when you touched on it, you were saying people that can pretty much call you out and check you because it's not always about the applause and someone patting you on your back, but you do need those spaces where someone can say, I don't know, Jay or Adelia, did you really think about what you were doing? Why are you doing this? Before you were doing XYZ, but this is not really true to who you are, or they notice changes or something is flat out wrong. Adelia, what is your take on just having that space where you can be kind of called to the carpet in those areas?
I think that's critical, to be honest. And if you don't allow for that space, then you're going to get wrapped up in your own little world and you're going to think you're great and you're not going to smell so good. And so sometimes you'll just be out here doing, like not your best because your only frame of reference is you. And so it's really, really important to have somebody that, but let me say this, you have to give people permission to be real with you.
Mm.
Because some people won't tell you the truth, not because they don't love you and not because they won't be honest with you, but the truth of the matter is that you have to give them permission. And I realize that. And so I verbally will say to people, certain people, hey, look, if I'm doing something raggedy or something, you have my full permission to tell me the absolute truth. I don't care about my feelings or anything like that because it's not about feelings. It's about me out here presenting well and doing what it is I'm supposed to do, and being my very best. And so, and everyone shouldn't have that privilege, to be honest, because some people will be close to you, and you think they're telling you the truth and they're really telling you something out of a place of envy and jealousy or out of,
Fear.
comparison, or what'd you say, Jalen?
I said fear, they'd be scared for you.
Fear,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they scared themselves. And
or
so
even competition, maybe like
and competition.
Yeah.
So if you don't filter that well, then you'll end up downplaying yourself. And so, like Pastor says, don't block the flow. So you gotta, I am very intentional about who I tell and who I say. And you two on the screen are two of those people that have absolute permission to tell me the truth. I ain't worried about Jalen. Jalen don't even need my permission. Jalen just say it anyway. But but you need that. And I trust that it's always going to be in my best interest. And everybody shouldn't have that access to tell you the
That's
truth,
good.
quote unquote.
Yeah. So, Jalen, what does that look like for you as far as cultivating safe spaces where people can have those conversations within those groups of honesty where they have your best interests at heart? They're not coming from a malicious place. Like, how do we cultivate those spaces? especially in the creative space where it's always so critical. It's always because of what we do is very detail oriented. So what does that look like for you?
For one, is who do you naturally connect with? A lot of times I see people, I know I have a lot of people who I know they actually go out to look for friends, and I'm like, absolutely not. I do not, because I don't subscribe. But it's about truly who do you naturally connect with, and when you're going into certain circles, and because I'm a firm believer of getting around the right people, but don't force it. Just you get around the right people, let it naturally happen, and you'll begin to find someone. It's almost like when they say when you build it, they'll come. That is so true, because as you're building, the people are not just the people to build it, they help you build will be able to come, but the people who are like-minded like you, they'll come too. And as long as you're open to it and you allow those people in your space and you allow those people in your circle, and then check their fruit. You can't just tell me stuff, and if you're really checking people's fruit, it won't just their words, it holds more weight. It holds way more weight when their fruit lines with what they're saying. And, having that, that makes a whole difference. And, hearing people and, what they have to say and being able because thing is, my granddad always told me, listen to everybody. You don't have to use their advice, but, always listen. So I'm always going to listen. But, I'm going to say, however, whose stuff am I really going to go back to the drawing board with? It's the people with the fruit. So, if you're in my circle and you're next to me and, I value the fruit, that's what you have, and I value that fruit on you, then, I listen to that and I really take heed on it.
That's good. Adelia?
I really love everything that he just said. I think it's just really important to protect and to guard like what you're out here to do, and be real clear on what it is that you're out here doing, because people will also hype you up into doing something you ain't supposed to be doing. And I said it just how I just said it. They hype you up and you out here doing what you ain't supposed to be doing. And so somebody tell you, like you do something good, like one time, and then all of a sudden you feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing. And it's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So I think it's real important to not let people have you out here in spaces that, and then the crazy part is that they'll hype you up into these spaces and won't even support you in these spaces, and then talk about how crazy you look in these spaces. And when you're done, oh, you did so good, man. That was great. First of all, you weren't even there. And second of all,
the lies you tell.
The lies you tell. And you just hype me up into this space that I'm not even supposed to be in.
Wow.
Right.
So turning the corner just a little bit, and we're talking about The Voice. If you have not done so, please like, comment, share, tag a few people. That way, if they miss the live, they can come back and catch the replay. One of the things that we're noticing now, as far as, I can't even call it the rise of AI, but just the takeoff and integrating that within creative spaces, particularly as Black creatives, because forever there's been such a huge gap with Black creatives, tech and technology. And even Jalen, you can tap on this, even as far as what you do, just the importance as far as us being more tech literate, because we hear people say all the time, and you maybe can touch on this too, as far as, oh, I'm not on social media, I don't really do the internet, but you stay on Amazon. And I'm like, that's technology. And I think to a degree, we cannot keep saying, oh, I don't do this, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this, because the gap is becoming wider and faster. Like things I remember learning from February to now, just in the last 2 months, constantly getting updates. I'm like, whoa. So Jalen, for you in the creative space and an influencer, because that's what you are in creative space, how do you address those changes? How are you keeping up with those changes? And then also encouraging others that look like us to jump into the wave while it's still fresh.
I mean, when it comes down to, trending things, I really, it sounds crazy, but I don't usually because I know what's going on and I'm aware of it, but I don't usually try to follow the trend. Because if you notice, things change so often. And if you're constantly moving with what's happening, because the people who creating it, it's multiple different people creating trends. That's different identities all in at the same time. And you're trying to stay up the beat with that. So that's why, I go back to that being laser focused and what stuff can you adapt and what stuff you need to adapt to, what stuff you need to implement into what you're doing. But I will always say definitely be aware of, and be knowledgeable. I ain't gonna say you have to completely know how to work it, because I'm be real with y'all. I do have this whole social media thing. I'm on there, but like I do not post that much, because even though I am in the entertainment space, y'all, within the next couple of months, somebody else gonna be on this phone and running it, because I have no interest of doing it. But it's a great tool. So you have to know what stuff to implement to, what things to implement that are coming out and knowing what's going on. Because, my mom, is a good example. She, I used to, growing up, I used to tell like, Mom, you have to get on social media. And, I would tell her that. And, throughout, my mom's been doing hair for almost 20 years. And throughout this time, I've seen, like, she's like, that social media thing is not for me. It's not for me. And I'm like, you have to get into it. But then it didn't hit me until maybe like a year ago. I noticed so much of her business did not come through social media. So much of it. And she's always like, that's not my strong suit. And I think one of the things is, you want to be aware, but at the same time, you have to be not just aware of what's going on, but be aware of who you are and stay true to that. Because at the same time, what your strong suit is, God knows too. So God knows how to position you to where, okay, this is what area you're good at. Because, it's so much stuff going on. And especially, in Atlanta, my mom originally started doing hair in Florida. A whole completely different market than what it is here in Atlanta. And trying to do social media here in Atlanta as a hairstylist, there is a hairstylist, at least 4 of them in one house. They all doing hair in the house, and it's 4 of them in each room, and somebody's in the kitchen too. So, when you have that, it's a very challenging market. But when you stay true to your heart and you figure, okay, how can I strategize in my way? Because, my dad, he was always telling me as far as what I do, he's like, oh, do social media. But if I, at first I did, and I realized that wasn't really my lane. But because I transitioned, I really found out who I was. And I really realized, there are people who are in the social media, lane that are trying to get into where I'm at now. They're trying to get in film and television versus, I said, yeah, this lane ain't working. And I had a little run. For those who know, they know I had a little run of doing it. But, I tapped into the film and television industry, and that's where you have people who've been doing social media since Vine. That just went over, a couple of folks don't even know what that is.
Like, what is that?
Right. They don't even know what that is. But no, there's so many people who started from that time and still have not had the opportunity to get in the film and television industry, and especially as a producer or a director or a writer. So, knowing your lane, I feel like the same way who you are, God knows who you are, and the lane that's for you is your grace for it. So, if social media is your lane, you'll be graced for that. But don't try to keep up with the trends, but be aware of the trends. So, okay, this is where we're moving. How does this fit our model? But other than that, stay on your track, stay on your lane, keep moving like that.
Vine walks so TikTok could run. If it's like a dinosaur now. That's like someone for us bringing up MySpace. Like that's
right.
When he said Vine, I was like, I forgot the word.
Vine.
Vine, yes. Adelia?
No, that was really good. And all I could think about was that little girl. Do it for the Vine. I ain't gonna do it.
I ain't gonna do it.
Do it for the Vine. I ain't gonna do it. Y'all know how that went. That was so funny. But no, what I will say is, as far as technology is concerned, I think that is very important. But I also think that it is important to not let fear of technology, right? And not let like your confidence level with technology get in the way. Because the bottom line is you can pay somebody to do anything, and you can also gain favor. And so there are people that will do things just because they believe in what you do. And the truth of the matter is you don't have to know it all. And so so I think that while it's important to stay up to date on your craft, stay up to date on, whatever is involved in your work, that and know how to do everything within the scope of what you do. But if you're not strong at it, take advantage of like YouTube University, man. You can learn and figure out everything on YouTube.
Right.
Or you can call somebody and somebody can teach you, or someone can, guide you or walk you through it. And I just think my biggest thing is, do not allow the lack of understanding, technology, getting in these spaces and it seems like people are running circles around you. If God has called you to do it, you can figure it out. And I'm a witness to that. Like I had to figure out a lot of stuff, and it blessed me because the way that God ended up showing me favor in these spaces and these things that I created, these technology platforms that I, was being introduced to. God always led somebody to me that was willing to invest in me and willing to invest in my knowledge of technology, or my knowledge of, sending me to a training, or, or allowing me to do this. Like, as much as I try, and I'll say this, but as much as I try to stay away from like I'm not a graphic designer, but I can get you started. Like my scope is grassroots. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where to start, right? So, and so, prime example, my aunt, she sells these egg rolls. She's from St. Thomas. Okay, these egg rolls got crack in them, y'all. But I said, you need a flyer. Like you need something to tell people, what I'm saying, that you out here. And so, I created something for her or whatever. It wasn't Janelle's work, or it wasn't, Jericho's work, or it wasn't Aaron Perkins' work, but it was enough, what I'm saying, where she made about almost a $700 profit today. Like, the folks came out, what I'm saying, because they saw.
So can TT like hook up an egg roll and
do you hear me? So I say that as it pertains to, technology. Don't let it scare you. Just do what you can do. And there's always going to be, if you work in integrity and you work with intentionality, there will always be people. Don't be doing stuff and using people. I don't like that. I think some people, they see what you're doing and then they try to rub elbows with you, and then they try to lean on your gift. And so it starts looking like you, but they get the credit. And so so you got to be careful about that as well.
Yeah, I guess my journey was a little different because I wasn't trying to do this at all. And prior to this, I had my own lash brand, Kamika Mink. I was working doing makeup and lashes at the Stellar Awards. This was not on my bingo card. And actually, this month is the SpeakHer Podcast birthday this month. And to go from that to this, and a few weeks ago, matter of fact, it was either this week or last week, I posted one of my first graphics or whatever. And I'm like, I can't believe I posted that. But to see the journey of what it started and how it began, and then to now, and it was just like, oh, thank you. It's nothing but God. And so I've shared the story before, when God had me to pivot out of the beauty space into digital media. I'm like, God, this is not my background. I don't know what I'm doing, and so I was still in the Navy at the time on base. And so on my lunch, because I keep a journal like next to me all the time, because if you get an idea, I'm like, write it down. And so I remember going back to my room on base, and I had some bless oil, and I anointed my hands and my head. And I was like, God, if this is what you want me to do, I need you to open up my intelligence, my understanding, my creativity, because I don't know what I'm doing. And that was like my actual prayer, like, open up my intelligence, because I don't know how to do this. And I started pulling on that creative virtue of God. Like, I need you to show me how to do this. And over time, he started doing that. And so to look at my first piece of cover art for the podcast to now, and mind you, it was streaming only. It wasn't a live. I didn't want to do this to the point. Um, if you all could have seen me the first live I did, I got through it, but I was fighting back nerves, tears, and anxiety because I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do this at all. And to fast forward where being told no the first time by iHeart and then the second time getting a yes, to creating e-products and digital products and a website and social media and YouTube and streaming in 50 countries and 900 in whatever city. Like, I didn't know all of that was there, but tapping into what we have in us, and it started with just saying yes, okay, I'll do it, even though I did it with an attitude, but just jumping in and tapping in and kind of pounding along as I went, but to see now where it's blossomed to, and then to meet amazing people like you and Jalen, who would have thought? And at the same time, beginning to hear stories from other creators and innovators about their journeys of healing and overcoming adversity. And then after maybe a couple seasons, I'm like, this is for me too. And so it also inspired me to pursue healing in other areas of my life. And here we are since 2019 to now, to what it's become. Who would have known? I would never guess this. This was not on my bingo card either, but I'm thankful for the process and the journey. And I don't know where this is going to go. I'll go until another door opens or whatever. But in the meantime, I think just giving ourselves the opportunity to explore technology, you don't know what it can do for you, for other people, what other doors it can open, and particularly just us of the melanated society. We need to show up in these spaces. We need the representation, and to say, well, oh, that's not my thing, even though it may not be your thing, but the thing that you do may inspire the mind of the next generation, that it becomes a bigger thing. Like when you look at Tyler Perry, and now he's creating this legacy program. It's like a tree with branches and roots. You just never know how high it can go or how deep it can go. So,
and can I say something? What you
sure.
mentioned something earlier about how you first started, and Jalen made a post recently, in comparison to when he first did an interview, and in comparison to what he recently did. Do not despise like your beginnings and how you started. Because I go back and look at I Am My Morning Coffee. Y'all, I was on a cell phone. I was on my way to work doing I Am My Morning Coffee. And then upgraded to like the studio, doing the studio. And I Am My Morning Coffee is coming back, but give me some time. But the progression of it all is just absolutely beautiful. And sometimes, Camille, I think with especially like you said, us melanated creators, right? We think that we have to wait to be invited to a table, and we don't. There are too many tools that we have access to. There are too many good, worthy networks that we have access to, where we don't have to wait on anybody to open up a door for us. We can build our own door. And we can open up the door for those that may feel less confident, or we can open up the door for those that may feel, like, well, all I got is my cell phone. Well, you know what? Start with the cell phone. And don't be ashamed, because it's more about the heart and the passion behind what it is that you're doing. God will grow it, and he'll bless it, and he'll increase it. You just need to start, but you got to give God something to bless. So if you don't have anything at all but your cell phone, get you a tripod and get to work and start posting content, you know what I'm saying, or doing whatever it is that you're supposed to do with that camera.
That's good. I absolutely agree. Jalen, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. Like Adelia said, that's all you have, then go. But, really just, if you do not, I mean, the biggest thing, like, even though I said the stuff about what I was saying earlier, part of that is you don't have to know everything when you start. I mean, and you don't have to have everything, because, I can look back even with the stuff that I've done. If I would have had some of the things I've had now, I probably would have ruined certain connections because I didn't know certain things. Even like, the post I made showing the last interview versus this one, that interview never saw the light of day, by the way, because I didn't like the way it looked. Never saw the light of day until that picture was posted. But I'm like, if I had, everything, done the way, if I'd done it the way I wanted to during that time, and I had everything right, there's so many pieces that came later on. When I first did that, I had a little money to shoot it, but it didn't come out right. We went down to Florida to shoot it. And my plan was to put it through this, film, aggregated thing, which is pretty much like distribution where you can self-distribute things. Mm-hmm. And, that was decent. But throughout time, I met certain people, and now I have the ability to take stuff directly from filming it to a network like Netflix. Peacock, Hulu. So it's just about, you're not gonna have everything. And especially if I would have turned that into somebody back then, yeah, I would have been at somebody's supermarket finding a new job because they would have had wanted to do nothing with me. So you don't have to have everything. And especially, if sometimes we don't even know what to do with certain things. So it's very imperative, just do with what you can with what you have. And, just how you're saying, just starting, and maintaining it. I remember our pastor was talking about how God starts the fire, but we have to keep it burning, and that's real big. God gives us something to start with, but it's for us to maintain it and keep building. That's it. Just keep building from there. Once it's already been started, you start with what you have and go.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that. I didn't have, all I had was my MacBook, and I had my little, y'all remember the plug-in earpiece?
Mm-hmm.
That you used to plug in? That seems like so archaic, but because everyone has AirPods now. But back when you had to actually like plug in and listen, and can't tell you how many ports we may have torn up when you would stand up too fast and forgot it was plugged up. Kids are like, "What? You had to plug it up?" Yes, we did. But that's what I had. And so those first few seasons, that's what I worked with. And then over time, I had the Blue Yeti, which I have it now. Then finally got a quality microphone, camera, but it just took time. And like you said, to just start. And that all I had was just the obedience and plug-in headset. So, but it can take you so far. And sometimes it's not even about the actual activity, but sometimes he just wants your obedience and the yes out of you, and then he'll provide as you go. Some people get the angel investor off front, and they can run with it, and then people like me, where you get what you need as you go. So I think everyone's journey is different, but I absolutely agree to start, because if you don't, I say this all the time, you have a window, right? And if you don't do it within this window, God's going to say, okay, you won't do it. Let me give it to Jalen. And then a year from now, and we see Jalen accepting an Oscar, and you're at home mad because that was my idea. That was my movie I wrote. And God's like, yes, but because you drug your feet, you questioned me, you questioned yourself. I needed someone that could take this. He read it and ran with it. And you can waste that moment, that opportunity, and someone else can do it, and then you're kicking and punching air because you weren't obedient the first time.
And obedience is important, and being prepared is important. Yeah. I learned a very valuable lesson. I'll never forget it. When I wrote my first book, y'all, and I guess I thought I just did something little. You remember when you said, don't be calling yourself little? Y'all, I thought my book, I wrote a little book. Okay, it wasn't even 100 pages. My pastor might have got up there. This is over 10 years ago, y'all. My pastor might have got up there and said everybody need to buy a book, and it was a packed house that day. Do you hear me? Everybody and their mama was there. Asked me if I had books. And you gotta ride the wave when the wave is there. There is no let me call you and get the book to you, because the moment has passed. And so I could have easily, that was such a valuable lesson. So
Yeah.
I think about these moments in time, right? Where you where we do things like this, right, Camille? And you have no idea what this is gonna grow to. Like, I just think about Oprah and I think about Tyler Perry, like, or 'cause I love to read, or like a Zora Neale Hurston. Like, did you know that you were going to be that great? Like, did you know like what kind of company you were in, like at that time? And it's crazy because we're in this moment right now. But I guarantee you, I promise, I assure you, just as much as I know that I'm sitting here breathing, God is going to bring about a crazy opportunity like in the next few years, and we are all going to be looking at each other, Camille, Jalen, and Adelia, like, how did we get here? We didn't ask for it. We didn't, beg for it. We just walked in the vein in the purpose of God, and this is where we ended up. And I really believe that, and I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be big, and I really believe it's going to be life altering.
Yeah. I've had some people kind of look at me sideways like, why are you so structured with your podcast now? And why are you so adamant about certain things? Even though they don't say it, I can feel it. You know how you can just pick up on attitudes and tones. And my mindset is from the beginning, if this is what I'm going to do, let's operate like a big podcast booking process, the setup,
Award
email
winning.
template, everything, because I feel that if I do it now, I'm not scrambling for things later. Even with my website, how things are set up, the products that I put out there, digital products, ebooks, resources, because when that time comes, oh, she has an e-course, I do. She has ebooks, I do. And so I'm laying it out now. I'm laying out the groundwork now. So when it comes, I'm not scrambling trying to put together this package. My EPK, my electronic press kit. I've had one. Someone that's a celebrity interviewer told me years ago, "Hey, get your EPK." I was like, "What is that?" He broke it down to me. I have one. So if someone says, "Hey, send me your bio with your EPK," it's in one PDF. I send it, boom, it's there. Headshots. I can't tell you work I've done for other people, low resolution, selfies. It's like, get some good headshots. You're going to need these things. And so for myself, I would say before, how you practice is how you play. And so although as far as numbers, I'm not big now, I work the way I see myself in the future. I show up the way I see myself in the future. I'm preparing for what I expect, meaning, yes, I have my headshots. Yes, I have my EPK. Yes, I have my website. Yes, I have my email set up. Yes, I'm working on something else that's going to put everything together later. I'll announce that when it's finalized. Yes, I have e-courses. So it's just like, if that's what you see, and when I see vision, then you're going to prepare for what you see, and you're going to keep seeing it until you see it. And something Adelia's been on to me about, she keeps saying the SpeakHer Podcast is an award-winning podcast. And at first I was like, girl, but now I'm like, no, she's right. The SpeakHer Podcast is an award-winning podcast. She's right. But sometimes, which goes back to what we were talking about before, community, having those people that can see those things in you and pull that out of you.
Yeah.
It matters.
And before we move on, when we talk about like preparation, not just preparation when it comes down to, the material things and have that, but
Right.
know your stuff. I get so frustrated to see people in certain spaces and you don't know what's going on. I have certain friends in the industry, that are in, certain spaces, and where I'm talking about certain things, they're like, "Y'all don't keep up with that." Why not? This is the area that you work in, so you need to know what's going on. Know your stuff. But that doesn't mean you have to sit there and look at it all day, but know your stuff. Even though, like, and then not even just like knowing what's going on in the industry, but knowing everything that's around you. When I get on set, even though I'm coming to just maybe produce, or if I'm just coming to direct, trust and believe I know how to work a camera. Trust and believe I know how to do sound. Trust and believe I know how to do lighting. So, I know that stuff because for one, you can't tell me that it takes this long to do it. I need a time. What's taking so long?
That turnaround.
Let's go. I know how to edit. I know how to do every single thing that's on set. And, I have, and it's because, I really study my lane. You can't plan to be a mogul and only, want to worry about just your little small position. Is much bigger than you. In order for you to truly build an ecosystem, you have to know what's in that ecosystem, and you have to know how that ecosystem works. So, really knowing your stuff and being prepped on that end as well. And I can say, like, it was, back in the days when I used to be a praise and worship leader, when I used to be a praise and worship leader, there was this particular ministry that I got to be a part of. And it was all these different, people. Creflo Dollar's daughter, she was one of the praise and worship leaders that was like, everybody's pretty much auditioning. And I got the position not because I had this crazy resume. I had just moved to Atlanta, had nothing because I was a celebrity thing, but because I was so knowledgeable. I'm a musician as well. So I knew the stuff about the music. I know how to do sound. So they hearing the lingo, they was like, oh, this person is much more than just a singer. So doing that, it allowed me to get in positions where there was people who were way more qualified than me because I knew my stuff. So being prepped and knowing your stuff is so huge. So huge.
Absolutely. I agree. I tell people that I'm the Tyler Perry of my life, written direct, like from beginning to end, with the podcasting space, like I can edit an episode, I can send it to the distributor, I can put it on, across streaming platforms, graphics, social media, marketing, copy, strategy, development, visuals, all of that. And Adele, you can attest to that. I'm knowledgeable in all those things. And so not only for myself, but things I've done behind the scenes for other people and entities. So absolutely understanding the language and understanding those things that matters, and to be in the space and know that you know what you're talking about. And I've had people that are not in my space. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should try that. I think you should do this. You're not in this industry. You're not in my genre. And so for someone to try to dictate, what they think you should do when I say a term and you don't even know what that means, it's like, come on. And like you said, having that knowledge base, it sets you apart from other people. And in my free time, of course, I review my own podcast episodes just to see, like, oh man, I didn't ask that question, or I could have gone that way, studying myself. But then I also study other podcasters to see how they handle situations, because not all episodes and places are like the SpeakHer Podcast. There's a lot of toxicity out there. But if I were to encounter that, how would I navigate that conversation? And so I watch various types of podcasts to see how even some of the big names, and I've sat and I've watched other podcasters and I'm like, ooh, like, mental note, don't ever do that. And sometimes the best example is the worst example. But how do you know that if you don't study your craft, if you don't study your industry, if you don't study your genre? Adelia?
No, I totally agree. Like you can't say that you want to do something or do this and you don't study it. Like even our Bible says that you have to study to show yourself approved, right? So you got to study the word of God to even know what's in it in order to maximize on the promises that's in it, right? So don't tell me that you're a podcaster and you haven't studied that area, so you can't get the promises that it is supposed to yield. And so it's the same thing as me as a mental health therapist. I would be doing harm to people if I did not study different modes of therapy, get certified in different modes of therapy, keep up with what's new trending. What are the diagnoses that are that are impacting kids and adults, and like if you don't study these things and you don't know different modalities of therapy, things of that nature, like if you don't know the lingo or the language of what it is that you're doing, then are you? It can be taken away from you,
Mhm.
and I think that nothing is everything. In order for you to really say that this is what you are, it has to be challenged. If you say that you're something, then something has to come against that to challenge that this is really what you are, right? Gold, you don't know gold is gold until it's tested. You got to be tested in this. And so if you say that this is what you are and this is what you're going to do, then I think it's very important. And don't be offended like when people ask you questions. People want to make sure that you know what you're doing, especially if they're giving you their hard-earned money. And so so I think it's really, really important to take what you're doing very seriously, and don't and this is the issue that I've had before in the past. And to be quiet, both of you all have helped me with this. But Jalen definitely more recently because of some projects that he's pulled me in. And sometimes, I'm not even gonna lie, I get more hype off of Jalen believing in some stuff than I'm doing than I do. And I'm like, dang, okay, I need to get excited about this because he's excited about. I can't have other people excited more about my stuff than I am, right? That don't make any sense. So I think it's important to have people around you too that that won't let you play yourself small and will pull things out of you. And I think that's really important too. No matter how humble you try to be, no, you like this is what you do, and this is what you do well. And I'll say this, and then I'll yield. But I had to realize and recognize that Adelia, you do things that a whole lot of people can't do. If you ask me to do something, I can produce something very quickly, and for other people, they're in awe. I remember doing a presentation. So somebody paid me to do a presentation, and I sent the presentation in like an hour, and it was quality. Do you hear me? And yes, I do get paid to put people's presentations together that they're about to present to their bosses, to their departments, to whatever, because they just don't have that skill set. And so when I pulled everything together, they were in awe, and I was like, anybody can do this. And God was like, no, sweetheart, no, dear heart. Everybody can't do what you do. And so you need to understand and respect the fact that I have given you a very innate skill. What was that taken? I have a very unique set of skills, okay? and you gotta understand that that's also worthy of pay. And that's something else that I've struggled with. Stop putting your gift out here and you're not being compensated for it. I'm not saying that everything, deserves a price tag, but I'm learning more and more that the more this phone rings and people are asking me stuff, here's my website.
Send the link. I'll do that. Yeah. It's a great filter because you know how people are really serious if they're willing. It's a reciprocity. I'm giving you something, but you have to give me something too. And that also filters out a lot of things and time as far as boundaries, where I've had people, hey, sis. And I'm at the point now where I have to refer them to the website or, hey, thank you for reaching out via my DM. Send me an email, and that usually is an indicator if they're really wanting to invest in what you have to offer, is if they do follow up with the email or if they do go through the website, because usually when I do that, crickets. So as we begin to wrap up, do you all have any takeaways or nuggets for the listeners and viewers till you come back? Any major projects going on right now, and where people can contact you on social media?
Do you want to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
So, we have a few things coming up. Me and Adelia, we did a project. It's Adelia's show, guys. I just produced it. And while we talking about, just people, paying and all that stuff, Adelia, I was like, you have to get used to this standard and this level, because on this particular project, y'all, she was acting shocked that she was getting paid to do what she's good at. But yes, this particular project is called The Unheard. We have a former Disney star. She was on Mickey Mouse Mouseketeers back in the days with Christina Aguilera,
The Mickey
Justin
Mouse Club.
Timberlake,
Yes.
and those different people. And she's been in some other things, and we, dug deep into her story, and it's a great conversation. I'm very excited for it to come out. It was supposed to go out some time ago, but we had a few hiccups and things like that. But we're doing pretty smooth. But we are doing a red carpet party that we're trying to shoot for something early summer to kind of just celebrate the opening of the project, because it is going to be a series, and we got a great lineup after this that me and Nadia have been talking about. But then after that, I have a film. Is one of these up there? Yeah, that one right there. This film, Past Resident, that one is coming out. It is a psychological thriller. So just kind of stay tuned, through my social media whenever I do post. Stay on there, and I kind of let everybody know what's going on.
Are you gonna do a watch party for that?
A watch party for which one?
The psychological thriller. Are you gonna do a watch party?
Of course. Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, then last, I got to say this because I'm kind of very excited about it.
Yes.
I recently did a studio tour because I've been really kind of like hunting for a studio because, seeing what Tyler Perry is doing and, working in that space, it's like, okay, I've been really looking for the studio. And I think God has positioned something great. I'm gonna kind of just say a gist of 53 acres. It's in Forest Park. It's gonna be a really great partnership that we're really trying to puzzle together. So yeah, but I'm gonna keep everybody updated because we like to work loud, as our pastor says, work loud. If you truly building something, there's no way people don't know. You can't build the Eiffel Tower and nobody knows. So we definitely gonna. I'll share more details as time comes.
Let me know so we can bring you back and talk about the process and everything. That is exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Adelia, I know the next Tyler Perry, y'all. Like, he's here first.
That's what I said. Like, and the crazy thing about it is, I know, like, because of what Tyler Perry has built, like, he's referenced, right, as people being like the next Tyler. But Jalen, you got something so unique that, and this is how it should be. I can see you, and this is no offense whatsoever. I can see you surpassing Tyler Perry because of how consistent you are, and that's how we're supposed to surpass. Those that came before us. But he's a great one to learn from. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so, pick up where he left off at.
Where he left off at, exactly. Yeah. And I'm just so excited, and that's how I feel about Oprah, y'all. I want to meet my auntie one day. So Oprah, if you see this, I want to meet you.
We have to make that happen.
Thank you. That's all I want. But anyway, so you all can actually find all things. I'm working on my website and landing page and all that other stuff, but for now, you can click the link tree and that goes to everything. My therapy practice, that goes to my books, it goes to the conference that I have coming up in October, the Sister Hype Squad brunch. Well, it's not a brunch, but Sister Hype Squad experience. Of course, I'm working with Jalen on that amazing show. Y'all, he spoiled me. I was like, what is this? He paid me for the show, paid for the makeup artist. Like, I've never been, I guess, treated that way. And he's like, you need to get used to it. And I'm going to prepare my heart and my mind to get used to it, because I love interviewing people too. It's a passion of mine. I love hearing people's stories. So you all can go to I Am My Morning Coffee and actually check out old episodes of people that I've interviewed, and you can watch the progression of I Am My Morning Coffee. I think that's it. I have some other stuff coming up, but I can't remember.
Awesome. I guess we're all putting out our celebrity influences. Tyler Perry here. We have a little Oprah over here. And so I guess my blueprint, I look at Kathy Hughes and what she's done in media. And so I look to her as far as moving beyond just a podcaster, but in the space of a media company or enterprise and how that could work. Not sure, but like building podcasts for other people, and then helping them to distribute, and being one of those people that I guess will be a distributor, especially for people that look like us. I think it's important for us to control our narratives and stories, especially for what we're seeing right now. Ownership is important, and to have a space or a house where you can feel at home to tell your stories and narratives within a media house, that's safe and authentic to us. And like the SpeakHer Podcast, the podcast where innovators and critics connect. And here we discuss topics and issues impacting the community and culture. See, I know my tagline, Jalen. And so I think that really matters, and to see what Ms. Hughes has done in the world of media, particularly opening doors for people that look like us and Black women, I think is important. And so I really look to her as an influence. So
awesome. So we getting to SpeakHer live one of these days.
We're gonna talk offline. I've done my first in-person event was pre-COVID. It was called Heart and Soul. And Adelia, as you know, since then I've done it virtually as a conference every year. I've had so many people ask me, "Were you gonna do live Heart and Soul or live whatever?" So we'll discuss that briefly after the show. But yes, so I hope everyone got something from this conversation. Thank you again, Jalen and Adelia, for joining me. I definitely want to do a part 2 of this because we just began to script the service, and I love the chemistry here. So I hope that we continue to have you all back to continue these conversations for creators and innovators. So y'all, we will not have a live next week, but y'all be safe. There will be a replay available. Be sure to go to my website at CamilleEssick.com and be also connect with me via social media on Instagram at Camille.Essick. I'm there. Also, I have lots of products and items available on my website at CamilleEssick.com. And y'all, I have a big announcement coming up really soon. I did a little teaser on social media a little while back, but the announcement that will roll out soon. So with that being said, everybody, this is Camille Essick. I am host of the SpeakHer Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and critics connect. You all be safe. Good night. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the SpeakHer Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at Camille.Essick, Facebook at the SpeakHer Podcast, or www